everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dead Box, where we talk about the Grateful Dead. We'll maybe pick like a live show or a live record, even a studio record, and talk at some length about it and how it affected us and how we feel about it. My name is Ryan,
I'm Chris.
and Chris, why don't you go ahead and show us what we?
These are all connected, but
Okay.
what reconnected me to Workingman's Dead
Ah,
is this 33 and a third book. To anyone who doesn't know about 33 and a third, they're just these short, a writer will pick a favorite album, just go through their experience with that music, and they're quite varied. But what's really good about this particular by Buzz Poole, Workingman's Dead, is it sort of just set me back in time, the era where everybody who was my age, you had two Dead albums, it was Workingman's Dead and then American Beauty, almost, because they weren't really an album, weren't noted for all these great albums. And yet they did have some great albums.
yeah,
But in looking back at this book and just his evaluation of how important this album is in the history of the Dead, it kind of set me back in. If you listen to the Beatles for months on end, and then you won't hear anything except the Beatles. Same thing happens with the Stones, the Who, and the Dead's a little bit different because they had these tapes and there's these shows and all this
a lot of content,
all this thing, and people very, very dedicated. But what Buzz talks about in this book is especially the handoff and the reason that this album came to be. And they had done two albums, the first two.
they'd done three, so they did
the Live Dead was counted, the Live Dead.
Right. So they had the self-titled album. They had Anthem of the Sun, which was like a really kind of interesting pastiche of like studio and live.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had Oxamoxoa, which was like a very expensive, experimental and expensive, right?
So say, great, you got signed to a record deal. You're going to get this amount of money. Subtract all your studio time and then sales and promotions, this and such. And, they realized that they really didn't make any money on that album.
Exactly.
And they said, okay, in order to save money, we can't go back to this experimental style of music.
No.
A recording for sure.
Right.
But he took it a step further and realized that, maybe there's just being a psychedelic experimental band wasn't going to be their path.
Yeah.
But no one expected this album to look like this.
No.
To sound like this. Again, their previous album is, this kind of psychedelic sonic layers of things.
Yeah.
There's some really strange music in it, which is enjoyable in its own right. But this is the hit. This is the thing that launches the Grateful Dead in the public's imagination of what this band is.
Yeah.
And if you had heard the previous two albums, you would have no idea that this rootsy, bluesy,
country-ish.
And so how they regroup is based on that factor, it's the cost. But then they had also just been ripped off by their manager,
who was the father of their drummer.
Mickey Hart, who then, the dad takes off with the money, $150,000 to Mexico.
Yeah.
And Mickey's like, perhaps I need to exit it too. Not that he took any money, but he just felt so bad. So they were back to the single drummer. And Jerry says, what if we just make this really simple, straightforward album? Practice it ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then they get busted.
Yeah.
So all these things are happening. Their money's gone. A very valued, member of the band needs to split. And they're all on edge.
And it was 1970, so the most recent thing before this record, and there's a song in here that comments on it, was the Altamont Music Festival.
Right.
And so the Rolling Stones were looking for a free festival in America, and they had set up this at this place called Altamont, which is outside of San Francisco. I believe they had either asked someone from the Grateful Dead, like, "Hey, who would you recommend for
Security.
security?" Oh, the Hell's Angels are great. You know, they're gonna make great security, and we all know what happened there.
Yeah.
So, like that, it was interesting when this came out because that event kind of signaled the end of the '60s,
Yeah.
and you moved into something completely different, and the music changed, the culture changed, and this is reflective of that era because you have influences from maybe two other albums before this. One was the band, which we've talked about before, influenced everybody, and then another kind of crossover was Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young,
Right.
which Jerry played on one of the songs,
Right.
right?
Teach your children.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Yeah, so it's completely different than what came before, and then with the exception of American Beauty, they wouldn't really get into this territory as an album again.
Right.
You know?
Right. But it sets them on the way to where sort of the language and the symbolism of the songs started to kind of congeal.
Right.
And I mean, Robert Hunter talks about the influence of Robbie Robertson. He really focused on Robertson, not just as a songwriter, but sort of the architect of the bands that got moved psychologically to the South,
Okay.
and what, you know, and how they dressed. You see earlier things of the band, you know, with Hawks. You say, wait, that doesn't look like the band. What happened to the straw hat? Or, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, no.
Suits.
Yeah. That was something they conjured up as the sound was developing, and they got these clothes and they dressed the part, and they were tremendously influential, but especially to Robert Hunter, who said, you know, I love what they're doing, and they love what Crosby, Stills, and Nash were doing vocally.
Yes.
So, a band not necessarily known for their vocal prowess,
Right.
on this album,
Yes.
the singing is tremendous.
It's so good.
It's and some of the harmonies they find isn't because they studied harmonies; it's they just moved into these areas. But
Yeah.
they hit upon
Mm-hmm.
a bit of their true selves as songwriters.
Yeah.
Between Hunter taking and say, okay, instead of the Deep South, let's move in. Let's come north. Let's look up the Fisherman's Wharf, or look at
Yeah.
mines, and let's look at some of the images of this album are more American than Southern,
Like mid 1800s California,
California.
even, right? Because almost every song on here, or has some kind of imagery of like working, hence the title. But
Yeah.
you know, so you have like songs like Dire Wolf, Uncle John's Band, which all Cumberland Blues, Easy Win, which all have, and then even Casey Jones, which all have like this folk like era kind of mentality. Where, you know, talking about Old West, or you're talking about 1860s California, though,
Yeah.
and it all kind of sounds like that, but they're all original songs.
Yeah, and you would, in the Pool book, Hunter talks about someone who's seen their show. It comes up and tells them, you know, you do that, you know, that the song about the mine thing, like, you know, you do it like a, you know, you're very authentically, you know, like, where did it come from?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, we wrote that song.
Yeah.
He says that's the greatest compliment he ever had from somebody is that he found I think he found his voice. It wasn't in the psychedelic stuff. It wasn't there. It was in these storytelling. We're in a place and we're in a time, and even though they also kind of dressed the part here, and you know, the things done in sepia and whatnot.
I mean, half of them were in cowboy hats.
Yeah.
You know,
So
it's just
I mean,
yeah.
so they were very cognizant. They said, well, the band did this. Very influential first two albums, his first two band albums.
Yeah.
But then they really, really appreciated what was happening with the vocals, and they dedicated themselves to practicing this, coming in and keeping it simple. What's wonderful about the rhythms on this album is everything's sort of free and easy.
Yes.
And it sort of drifts along. As Jerry said, he goes, these are my favorite songs.
Yeah.
These are the songs that I loved unabashedly, love to sing, love to get off on, but also like to be able to sing again.
Right. Right.
And it, it was born of, trouble. I mean, there was an album born out of financial trouble, kind of emotional trouble, and they respond
Mm-hmm.
with this incredibly simple but dense music.
Yeah.
I really like the Altamont new Speedway
Newspaper Boogie. That's
Boogie.
probably my favorite song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and because they took a modern story, and
Yeah.
Les talks about that he feels really, really bad that they didn't go on and play because maybe they could have had a hand in calming stuff down.
Because they bailed, right? Like
They
they
just said,
saw trouble coming and they just took off.
You see them getting out of the helicopter,
Mhm.
and Pennebaker's right there, and it's like, they're saying this out, and Jerry's going, oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Bad vibes, man.
Yeah, but you take this end of the era and whatnot, and what's unique in that song is they're talking actually about Gleason, Ralph Gleason, the writer,
Oh,
who
yeah.
was, tearing down, who'd set this up, and who's to
Right.
blame, and such and such. And it's sort of a response to him is that,
Mhm.
don't, this is not your rap. If
Yeah.
you don't have a solution for this,
Yeah.
then just stating that it's a problem isn't helping anybody.
Please don't dominate the rap jack if you got nothing new to say. Yeah.
And it's perfect.
It is.
Because it's timely, it's of the moment, but that song ends with, one way or the other, this darkness has got to end.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're not saying that they have the solution, but they're saying it's not in with the suits.
Yeah.
That's not the way that's going to work.
Mhm.
So it's a very self-aware music,
Yeah.
and philosophical, and I think that's why these songs have survived to be
Definitely.
played, is that they hit on in some ways some of their true
And the
self.
shows they were playing around this time is they'd start, not all of them, but they'd start with the acoustic show like set,
Mhm.
and then they go in and do the electric sets. So yeah, and the acoustic sets would feature many of these songs. They did the last album like twice basically. They
Yeah.
did it one way and then they did it a whole other way.
Yeah,
Um,
they could have done it 5 or 6 more ways,
Yeah.
and just never could afford to even do this album. But it did put them in this circumstance
yeah,
to where they had to just for survival of a band to look in the face of Altamont
right.
and come out with a music style that's informed, that's intelligent, that still singing, high on cocaine
Right.
as the train's gonna go into a wreck. Is this music for the masses in
Yeah.
one way, but it's intelligent music for the
I
masses.
mean, you could give this to anyone who's never heard the Grateful Dead. They'd
Oh.
probably love it, right?
Oh, they would say, "Oh
Like, they
man,
would
what?"
just be like, yeah, I would give this an American Beauty for sure.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned was the songwriting, and one thing the book mentions that I really liked was the songwriting between Hunter and Garcia, which isn't talked about enough, like that partnership.
Sure.
But they said in the book that it was almost telepathic, where in one room Garcia would be playing a melody and a riff and nailing a song, and then Hunter would be writing lyrics in the other room, and they
Yeah.
almost match
Yeah.
and mesh with each other, and they keep doing that throughout their up until Jerry died, basically.
Yeah.
Just the writing of those songs and how they pair so well together, but without even collaborating like a a singer songwriter and a lyricist would,
Yeah.
or anything like that. So it's very cool, like how this album probably started that. I mean, before that, he was writing lyrics for them, but that Hunter Garcia thing really started probably
Gels,
with this
yeah.
one. Yeah.
There's a whole lot of women out on the streets in the rain today. For the river keep a talking, and you never hear a word it say.
Love Pigman.
Yeah,
I love
sure.
his bluesiness and what he could bring
Right.
to their live thing. I mean, he really was a great front man,
He was, yeah.
and yet he's declining, and Robert Hunter writes this song and plays it. He doesn't write with Jerry Garcia; he writes it himself.
True.
He shows it to Pigman, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I like that tune.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want you to sing it," and it's one of my favorite songs on there
great.
because it has the heft of this kind of bluesy thing, which adds to the roots of the music, but you get to hear, Pigpen in this element. of
Owning it.
Owning it, and yet it's not a big, long, stretched out thing. It just has a timelessness to it that that sort of highlights everything for the album. Whether it's Dire Wolf or just any of the other songs when they would pop up in future live sets. That would always be my favorite moment because I think it always would bring them back to we were going to be a starving band.
Yeah.
We maybe weren't going to make it
Right.
in this machinery,
Right.
but we found a way.
Yeah. And then they played a lot of shows during this year, but I think it was to, like you said earlier, to pay off the debt.
Yeah.
But after this, I don't think they had to worry too much.
No.
But after, and all their albums after this weren't like the greatest albums, but those early ones were probably like the best that they did. I mean, they really had that spark.
I beg you, please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me.
So I was going back through our Workingman's Dead Box interview. I keep coming back to Altamont and the significance of that event and New Speedway Boogie, and it just gave me a reason to swirl back and create a little coda, a little extra closing piece about this album to see the texture of the times, and times are always changing, and then we were entered a particularly dark place. So here's the coda.
My name is Ryan.
I'm Chris.
I kind of forget about this one sometimes,
Yeah.
but then I come back to it. Like I'm like, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, but I zoned in on the Altamont. Our friend who does Chris, who does a Revolutions per movie
No, yeah,
thing. He had
Great podcast.
a great show where they talk about Gimme Shelter and just the tension that's in that moment. That's why it's always a great. That's always a great movie to watch as a precursor to listen to this
a good
album to,
companion,
because they that's what everybody was up against, and that they found this music with one song that's an answer.
yeah. Without saying
without
Altamont in the song.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Without saying, but it's an answer about here's the spirit of how we can address this,
Right.
and if we don't have the political answer or the sociological answer, we do have one answer, and it's about music.
Yeah.
And we're going to do what we know how to do.
Please don't come and make a bad If you please don't break up the train, this train has got to go. Spin a little down, down, some say that it run away, others say that it stands still. I don't know, I was told not to run with the wind goes. Others can rather let it sail, it's just as far the way up there.
Take this end of the era and whatnot. And what's unique in that song is they're talking actually about Gleason, Ralph Gleason, the writer,
Oh,
who
yeah.
was tearing down, who'd set this up, and who's to
Right.
blame and such and such. The town, who's responsible for the murder? Ralph J. Gleason, December 17th, 1969. Why Saturday's episode? I suspect it is because just as their parents 25 years ago thought America was full of Comanches scalping stagecoach riders and Capone gangsters shooting passersby on Chicago streets, Jagger and Cutler think San Francisco is the Hells Angels and the pranksters, since these are the ones who went to London last year and first broached the idea of the Stones playing free here. Now it has ended in murder. And that was a murder, not just a death like a drowning or the hit and run victims. Somebody stabbed that man 5 times on the back. Overkill, like Pinkville, like a Chicago cop's reaction to long hair. Is this the new community? Is this what Woodstock promised? Gathered together as a tribe? What happened? Brutality, murder, despoliation, you name it. And sort of a response to him is that, this is not your rap. If
Yeah.
you don't have a solution for this,
Yeah.
then just stating that it's a problem isn't helping anybody.
Please don't dominate the rap jack if you got nothing new to say. Yeah.
And it's perfect.
It is.
Because it's timely, it's of the moment, but that song ends with, one way or the other, this darkness has got to end.
Yeah.
So they're not saying that they have the solution, but they're saying it's not in with the suits.
Yeah.
That's not the way that's going to work. So it's a very self-aware music.
Yeah.
And philosophical, and I think that's why these songs have survived to be
Definitely.
played, is that they hit on in some ways some of their true self. They were going to
Yeah.
go on to other kinds of music.
Right.
They never had, after this and American Beauty almost recorded in very similar time.
And whenever you think of one, you think of the other usually.
Yeah,
right?
and everyone had those 2 albums, and you
Right.
put on and say, "Oh man, this is really, really good music," and then you moved on because there were all these other things that were going on.
Yeah.
There is historically significant as a live band, so that here's the value of the Dead with here. But if you could put in balance up against this incredible career and the tapes and the tapers and
Yeah.
everyone who loved them, I think they learned to kind of love themselves.
Sure.
That they said, we're really good and we could do any music we choose to do. And
And they did.
they did. They're back this album. So I'm really glad,
Yeah.
in closing, I'm really glad for this Working Man's Dead 33 and a third by Buzz Poole, because he'll, even if you're a hardcore Dead fan, you're going to find a very concise celebration of this
Yes.
album. The anniversary re-release of it is really good, especially if you want to do this all the
Just
time.
flip that all day.
But
yeah.
and the live 71 show in there really shows how this started to move out
Right.
into the
Yeah, 'cause
music.
I think they played most of these songs.
Yeah,
With the exception of the Pigpen one, like well into their career.
yeah, it
Yeah.
just stays with them.
Yeah.
So for the Dead Box, I recommend this.
Yeah.
Maybe-
I love it. Yeah, I think it's a great one.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, if you don't like
With
Working
the
Man's
cover
Dead,
too. Yeah, I mean,
you can just.
you could do that all day, like you said.
Yeah, but if you don't
Doing it
like
now.
this, if you don't like Working Man's Dead, you're never gonna like it.
No,
You're
you're not.
never gonna like the Grateful Dead. But it's a good place. It's a good place to go to, even if you're at the end of the line, to get back on that train and start again. And
Hopefully without the cocaine.
please,
Yes.
please.
Yeah.
It didn't help so much.
Cautionary tale.
Yeah, it didn't help so much. But for the Dead Box, we this is our Dead Box pick, and we hope to see you again soon. I'm Chris.
And I'm Ryan. And this has been Dead Box. See y'all later.
Thanks so much.
All right, man.
Bye.